Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Writers Podcast. I have with me today guest Candy Wolff. Good morning, Candy.
Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. Thank you for asking. And you're here to talk about your book, Lost and Found in Mexico. And would you term it a memoir or a self-help guide or a bit of both? Or how would you just describe the book to the listeners?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both because it is a
Okay.
memoir, but I wrote it to hopefully help people as well. So what I found myself in, hopefully I can help other people not be in the same situation that I found myself.
Okay. And I see that you are the CEO and president of Irreplaceably You. Do you want to talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit?
yeah. So it came about, about a year and a half ago, when I was writing my book and trying to come up with a name. And I'd lost my husband and was like, what would be a good business name, And the more we talked about it, was like, well, I can't replace my husband,
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Irreplaceably You came about, was just the lots of conversations on, what would stick, what would people resonate to, and bringing in my husband with that conversation.
Okay. And what is the purpose of your company?
So, I lost my husband 15 months ago when we were in Kabul for my 50th birthday.
Mm,
Unexpectedly woke up and found him. So it's my whole purpose of my company with my book and speaking is to talk about not only like my faith journey that I went through, but financial stuff that happened that I was unaware of.
mm,
When you're in a traditional marriage, the husband takes care of most of the bills and knows where all the money is. And
right.
when I came home, it was a whole disaster of not knowing who I paid the mortgage to, or my name wasn't on any utilities. So it's trying to just help people through, because you don't know what you don't know until
Mm-hmm.
something happens.
Okay. So you're like a consulting company then for people in these situations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So um, outside of your life experiences, and I'm off the top, I sympathize for what you've gone through. I'm sure it was a very tough journey for, especially to happen on your vacation, which most people are hoping to come back with some great memories, and instead it turned into
Yeah.
something very bad for you. Um,
Yes.
so I'm sure that has taken you a while to process emotionally, and outside of all the logistical difficulties that you faced.
Hmm.
So if I, I'm assuming that at this point you're in a place where you can handle talking about it with no difficulties, because I don't want to upset you or anything like that,
Yeah,
if you know
no.
what I mean.
I one-on-one is good. I did my first keynote speak last week for 350 people, and
Okay,
um, yeah,
that was
that was a
tough,
little tough getting through that one. But yeah,
right?
one-on-one, I'm good. We're going on. So it'll be 16 months next week, I believe.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy how
but
time
writing the
flies.
book really
Yeah,
helped. Yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah. So
sometimes it feels like it was yesterday.
right. So prior to these events, were you a stay-at-home mother, wife? Is that or did you
Nope,
have a
actually, I
job?
have a full-time, yep, I have a full-time job. I am an event
Okay.
manager, so I work for X Golf, Minnesota. So
Oh,
we have
okay.
6 locations here. So I do all the events and then help with sales and marketing for our local region here in
Okay.
Minnesota. So that's that was it is my full-time job, and
Okay.
was leading up to this.
Okay. So uh, it sounds like your background is in communications then, and I assume that helped you with the idea of writing this book. Why don't you describe how the whole idea came about for you, and why did you do it in the first place?
Okay, yeah. So like I said, when I was down in Mexico, when you lose somebody in another country, it's totally different than losing somebody here, in the
Mm-hmm.
States. Um, all the logistics you have to go through. And when I came back, I was down there for 4 days. And so not only was I dealing with the death of my husband, but then you deal with the police on top of it, and which was not a good experience. And when I came back,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wanted to know what happened. So I
Right.
kept telling the story over and over. And every time I talk to someone, they're like, you really have a story to tell. You really should write a book, about
Mm.
it. And gosh, it was like 3 months probably. And I finally was like, all right, I guess, God's talking to me. He wants me to write a book. So I'm going to write a book.
Okay.
So that's how the whole process came about.
Right. And have you ever tried to write anything before?
No, just little, I do a lot of, in the back, past experiences. I've done lots of trade shows. I'll get up and
Mm-hmm.
speak, so I've had to write speeches and
Mm-hmm.
presentations, stuff like that. But I have never sat down and wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's easier to write your own story or write a fiction story. I don't know, but this it was my real story, so I guess writing it came easy to me, just to go through the emotions of you had to replay it over and over, but just everything I went through, and I want the readers to. I hopefully when they read it, they can feel what I felt, going through
Mm-hmm.
it.
Okay. So how did you um, frame your story? Like, how did you decide where to start it? And what was that process like? And how long did it take you to write the book?
Um, the process, like to come up with how to begin, that was a lot of me talking with some of my friends that are writers,
Mm-hmm.
getting their opinion. Like, I've never wrote a book before, so like,
Right.
how would you start it, and how would I go about it? And so just through, I guess you call them focus groups that I did with different writers, was we decided that I would start the morning I woke up and found them,
Mm.
and then kind of went back. So the morning I found him, and then going like back to when we met. So it was kind of back and forth
Mm.
through what was going on in Mexico, but then like we're leading up to how we got to where we were as well.
Okay.
So that's the first like half of the book. And then the second part of the book is just learning like the finances of, like more that part would be more the self-help of
Mm.
what you really need to know. Like when I came home, what I didn't know, and here I am grieving, I'm trying to plan a funeral, and you have a stack of mail and you don't know what to do. And
Mm-hmm.
my husband actually had lost his job 5 years prior, a
Mm.
very good one. Was and then COVID hit, so hard
Mm-hmm.
to find jobs. So he
Right.
had been taking money out of our 401k, which I knew, but I didn't know to the extent. So
Mm.
meanwhile, dealing with all that, then I get home to find out our 401k, our retirement was gone.
Mm.
So that, was a whole shock to me as well. So the book, like I said, starts from me finding him, and then love story, kind of back and forth how we met, all the way
Mm-hmm.
up to me coming home. And actually, because it took quite a while to write this, because I am working full time,
Right.
I was able to I went back down to spread his ashes. So I was able to talk about the feelings of having to go back to the same place you lost, I lost him. And
Mm-hmm.
then like the first years, of all the firsts that I went
Mm-hmm.
through and the
Right.
different emotions. So it, yeah, literally has been a 1 year process of
Okay.
getting it written and published.
Okay. And did it um, did it surprise you what you discovered about yourself as you wrote it? Did you like? I guess I'm assuming you found it a cathartic experience, but what
Yeah.
surprised you about the process?
When I first started writing it was lots of tears. Every time
Hmm.
you sit down and you're writing something, you're remembering it. But every time I'd sit down and write again, and I would look back at what I wrote, I've found like I have become like a stronger person, like
Hmm.
than I ever thought that I could become. I mean, just when you sit there and there's milestones, and it's like every time I hit a milestone, I'm like, wow, I'm proud of myself that I
Hmm.
actually accomplished this. And as well, I feel like a sense of accomplishment that I started it, I finished it, but then for my kids too, to be able to, they're going to have a book that's going to
Hmm.
talk about everything that they can share with their grandkids, down the road.
Sure.
And so it's like a legacy almost for
Hmm.
me, for my kids, grandkids, great grandkids down the road. But very, very, very healing. It was,
Hmm. Okay.
it was,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
good. Oh, I was just going to say lots of, what did my accountant said? Probably $20,000 worth of counseling into a book. So,
Very good. And uh, your process for writing the book, how did you approach that? Like you talked to some other writers about in focus groups and whatnot, but once
mhm.
you started to get pages coming and that, did you just write the whole book like in a first draft, or did you send it out did you have like beta readers or like
Yes,
people to give you feedback on it? How did that,
yeah,
and
I
how did that
did.
work for you?
It was interesting to, like when you write something, and like I said, first book, and I want it to be good. So before I
Right.
even went to the publisher, it's like I want people to read it and make sure it makes
Hmm.
sense to them. So I had a good friend who is a professor. She's wrote lots of books, so
Okay.
she read it. And then a friend of mine who actually has written a few books, is in communications, went through
Hmm.
it. And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to have a friend read it, that doesn't
Right.
write or, really have anything to do to get their opinion. So
Hmm.
it was interesting getting the markups back of the different perspectives that I got.
Hmm.
And so then I took that and went in and fixed things around, and then obviously had a line editor come in and make
Okay.
sure it read correctly, and it's all
Hmm.
punctuation, spelling, everything was good from that.
Right. So, like your initial intent was um, write it sort of as a memoir and a self-help guide for other people. Did you
Hmm.
get feedback, or did your writers tell you that? Because I think a lot of people, when they write memoirs and that, or nonfiction books, they don't realize that they really have to have some sort of a narrative to hook the reader. Because a straight
Yeah.
recitation of the facts of your life, as as important
Hmm.
as they are to you, they're not going to resonate with other people unless they can connect to it
Yep.
um, from a certain perspective, some sort of framing device or whatever. Did you
Hmm.
have that in mind, or did that sort of just evolve organically as you wrote the memoir?
That actually came from my friends that were writers,
Okay.
like when they were reading it, they're like, okay, this is good. Said same thing. This means a lot to you, but it's probably not going to mean a lot to a reader.
Right.
So, with them helping me, to tell a story, but to bring the readers in, not just
Hmm.
sitting down and writing, this is what happened next, and this is what happened next. And
Hmm.
so, being able to grab the attention, and the wording, like the the words that stand out that will grab people,
Right.
were something that I had help on too, because not being a writer, I
Hmm.
love to read. I read every day,
Okay.
um, but it was nice to have professionals around me that
Sure.
were willing to help me and say, okay, this is great how you wrote it, but let's tweak it a little bit and write it this way, because it's going to captivate the audience. What you're
Right.
writing is probably not going to sell. So
Hmm.
it was nice to have professionals around when you
Right.
first write a book, because I really didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm. Hmm. No, you've definitely found the right path to get this done. So your book has been completed now, and it's been out for a while.
It's just being published right now. So,
Oh, okay.
it's the
Have you
final
gotten
stages. So,
okay? Uh,
oh, I'm sorry,
and
what?
it'll be available at the usual places, I assume. Amazon, uh, Barnes and
Amazon,
Noble,
Barnes and Noble. Yep.
your
And I'm
website.
using my website and Kirkhouse Publishing, a local publisher here in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's getting ready to hit the presses any day now to
Oh,
start printing
oh,
out
fantastic!
and start sending them out.
Congratulations. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite
Thank
another
you.
milestone for
Exciting.
you.
Yes, it is. Sign of relief.
Yeah, I bet. Now, um, have you received any like uh, feedback, reviews, early impressions from anybody, or how's that going for you?
Yep, I've sent it out to, a few different business people that I've met. I interviewed
Hmm.
with a lady and her daughter. They own Purse Strings, which is out of Illinois, and they are a financial planning company. And they
Okay.
found my story on LinkedIn, actually, and I did a podcast with them.
Okay.
So it was really important for me, to have them review it because they knew my story and we had talked. So she reviewed it, and she gave a wonderful review on it. And then another gentleman, Sean Schwerner, who is an amazing guy. He speaks all over the place. He's got
Hmm.
a YouTube video out. He summited like 7 mountains with one lung. I mean, just an amazing guy.
Mm. Wow.
Um, Read it, and he was very impressed with it, of what I had to say. And then another, actually, a friend of mine who owns a diversity company, he read it, and he actually wrote a book a few years ago. So I'm like, I want you to read it and let me know what you think. And
Hmm.
so it's so far positive,
Hmm.
and hopefully it will continue that way.
Right. Very good. So, what are your plans now with the book coming out? Are you incorporating this into your you said you did public speech. So is that something that you're looking to do forward, and use it
Yeah,
in
which
your
is something
daily job?
yeah, well, I never, I thought truly, when I first started, I was like, I'm just going to write a book,
Hmm.
just that's what I'm going to do. And the more people that I talk to, and it's just kind of blowing up from just writing a book to, no, you need to get in front of people and truly tell your story. So
Hmm.
I have a speaking coach, actually, who's helping me now to try to find different avenues, because
Hmm.
I have so many different stories to tell within that one story.
Hmm.
So she's just like, you need to be out. First of all, you can be an inspiration to people that you went through this horrible tragedy and have turned it into something positive,
Hmm.
for you and your kids. And then as well, the finance thing, making sure people understand that they need to know where their finances are. And then as well as, the faith part
Hmm.
of what I went through, but as well as just planning for your future. Like, who knew that at 50 and my husband at 55, I would be planning a funeral, and we
Hmm.
had never talked about what we would do. The only thing
Right.
we knew was we wanted to be cremated because we loved Cabo. That was our place we went every year, and
Okay.
wanted some of our ashes spread down there. But
Mm.
as far as that's all the direction I had for trying to put a funeral
Okay.
together.
Hmm. So, uh, if you don't mind my asking, then, since you just
Mhm.
mentioned it, did you return to Cabo to spread some of your husband's ashes then?
Yep, I did. His birthday was October 26th of this last year. I went, so
Hmm.
it was 9-month mark.
Hmm.
And we have a really good friend who has a house down there. So
Okay.
I didn't want to go by myself.
Hmm.
And so he went with me because, um, as in the book, it talks about all the issues with the Mexican police that I dealt with. And
Mm.
I was I was scared to go back. And
Sure.
but this gentleman, he owned a company with us. Just we've been good friends, and
Hmm.
he's like, why don't we go down? I know you want to spread his ashes. Let's do it on his birthday, and I'll take you down there. And sure
Mm.
enough, there was a hurricane that hit when we were down there. So 2 trips in a row.
Oh, geez. Okay. Um, and h- how did you find that experience doing going back there? Like you said, you were scared, and obviously the weather didn't seem to be very agreeable. But did it
I
did it bring you some sense of peace, or?
really did. It was so crazy because I was so anxious about going back there.
Hmm. Right.
To the place that I felt like I left him. Um,
Hmm.
but when I got there, I think the hurricane hitting was a blessing in disguise because it kept my mind off of things for about 3 days. Because
Mm.
you're dealing with it was a category two, nothing like other people went through. But for me,
Right.
living in Minnesota, we don't have hurricanes, so
Right.
um, kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but when I went down and spread his ashes, it really was like just me and him and the ocean, and it was very peaceful and kind of like setting him free and setting myself free to be able to
Hmm.
move forward. So
Right.
um, it was good up until the last day when it was time to come home, and then I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving him here again,
Right.
and but overall it was a great experience, and I'm really glad that I did it.
Right. And jumping off of that experience to the whole experience of what you've gone through with the book and everything, um,
Hmm.
and you've gone through a lot of firsts now, and so now you're coming up on your seconds. Uh,
Yeah.
how are you feeling now after everything? You're ready to go
Yep.
forward,
Yeah.
or?
I thought I was. You get through everything, and I guess my youngest son, our youngest son, is graduating high school here
Mm,
in a couple weeks,
wow.
and he's going to Virginia to go play collegiate volleyball, and
Mm,
it kind of hit me like just when he we had National Signing Day, like wow, like his dad's not here to see him
hmm.
sign. He's not going to be there to watch him get his diploma, and he's not going
Right.
to be there with me to drive him to Virginia to drop him off. So, I guess with any type of grief, was what I've found is you do really good, and then something happens, and
Sure.
then it sets you back. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I am right now.
Sure.
But it's all good. I'm
Hmm.
super excited for my youngest. He's gonna do amazing, and like I said, it's just one more first, but in the second year.
Yeah. 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 And there's going to be more first, I'm sure, for you that you're going to have
Yeah,
to face by yourself, but or experience. I shouldn't say face. Face is, I think, a little
like,
too harsh, but experience by yourself and with others.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
so that's great. I have to commend you for wanting to share your story. I know it's not easy to do something like this publicly, and I do think it's helpful because I've heard of the same stories that you've gone through with friends of ours. Me and my wife have been very diligent in making sure that we all know where everything is, so that if one of us
Good.
goes, the other one will be in a position to pick up the pieces uh, with the least amount of difficulties as possible. So like we got our
That's
utilities in
good.
both our names and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
All our documents have both our names on it. Uh,
Hmm.
though
That's
terribly,
good.
we haven't made our will yet. We've always kept talking about it, and we've never gotten
I know, isn't it
formalizing it.
funny? Lots
Yeah,
Yeah, you talk about it and you talk about it, and then
yeah.
it's like, wow, it's too late. And
Hmm.
so, but it's really like I like it that my friends, that when I talk to them, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I would have never thought about that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't either." So,
yeah.
being younger, and not a young chicken, but I mean, I'm 51 now, and
Hmm.
like not knowing, we're feeling clueless, like, oh my gosh, I'm 18 again and I don't know what I'm doing. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
I've already helped a few people, which that's what it's all about is,
that's right. That
giving it
must be
forward
very
because
gratifying for you.
it
Yeah.
is. It is. I
Yeah.
love it.
Okay, so now you've got one book on your belt. Got any itchings for a second one?
Yeah, I do. I think
Mm.
just from how much I've grown, through
Mm-hmm.
all of this, I don't know when it will be. Maybe, I got to get this out
Sure.
and, under my belt for sure. Maybe doing some speaking but I really want to be an advocate for women and men that, when tragedies happen, like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to let that define you.
Right.
You can define yourself
Yeah.
and move forward. And you can find strength in sorrow. And,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you surround yourself with good people who, are willing to be there for you and
Mm-hmm.
when you need them. But that's what I want. I want people to look at me and say, she can do it, I can do it.
Right.
Because I am just a normal person, a mother of 3 boys, you know, middle income, nothing
Mm-hmm.
fancy about me, but I look at myself as a survivor, and that's what I want for other people.
Right. Uh, One last question on your book. The title,
Yeah.
Lost and Found in Mexico. Did you come up with that, or how did that title come up to be?
Yep, that was a brainstorming with a good friend of mine.
Mm.
And we just, one day sat down and started writing out different titles. And when that one popped up, I'm like, that resonates
All
because
right.
I did feel so lost. Like that morning I woke up and
Mm-hmm.
found them. I
Mm-hmm.
literally was lost for days. And then um, I had, a family, like we'd never stayed at a resort before. This was the first time ever we
Mm.
stayed, but I found a family at the resort that walked me through, through finding myself again in those
Mm.
days. But that's, yeah, that one came about was lots of brainstorming. And then that one, just like when it was written down, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. That's what I want. So,
Very good. And the book's going to press right now?
um, next week, I believe it will
Next
be
week.
in press.
Okay.
So,
And then
yeah,
after that, it'll be available at all the usual places, correct?
all the usual places. Yep, correct.
Okay.
So
Very
I'm
good. Well,
excited.
yeah, I bet. Congratulations. Quite a journey
Thank
for
you.
you. And I wish you all the success with it. I don't have any other questions for you. So if you have anything else you'd like to mention at this point, please feel free to do so.
No, I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you bringing me on and letting me tell my story. And like I said, I
Sure.
just hope when people read it, they get something out of it.
Right.
That's my whole goal.
All right.
Is
Well,
hope to help somebody.
all the best for you, Candy. Thank you for your time and
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of the
Thank
day.
you so much.
You're welcome.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Take care now. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.